Hi, Milo and Kayla. It's your Mimi here. I am going to read you a book that Grandpa has taken pictures of so that you will have a new book to look at and read and listen to me reading it to you. It's a book about a Japanese woman and Mount Everest, which is 8,849 meters high. The book is called Up, Up, Ever Up, and it's about a woman named Junko Tabi, A Life in the Mountains. I suspect that I have mispronounced her name. Words by Anita Yasuda, art by Yuko Shimizu. I suspect there's a Japanese version of this book. Junko's hill was her entire world. Under its sakura trees, she'd lie on the cool grass listening. Stories of mountains drifted all around her until silvery domes and icy peaks unfurled as far as she could see. As the mountains took shape, a dream formed within Junko to climb. When she turned 10, Junko and her friends climbed Mount Chasu step by step. Hot springs sizzled, ears pricked, and Junko's nose scrunched at the egg-scented air. A slope, bristling with boulders, urged up, up, and ever up. Junko wondered where else she might explore, but a life of climbing mountains seemed as far away as the sky they braced. When Junko left her home in Miharu for the grayscape of concrete, she shuffled with the gaten of rumbling Tokyo trains, but her heart longed for the mountains, white caps on a deep, deep sea. Even though most mountaineering clubs said no women allowed, Junko found one that said yes. Each weekend, she laced her boots for where streams ran smooth and silent, and mists revealed rocky spurs and granite knolls. With harness and rope, she reached and slipped and reached again until the landscape was part of her, finding joy on camel ridges, cloud catchers, and craters, wild and flat. Look at her. She's going through a door, and one side is the city, and on the other is the mountain, and she's waving to all of her friends who are waiting for her. She met someone who loved mountains as much as she did. They married and became a family of 3 peaks: Mama, Baby, Papa. As her family grew, Junko knitted other women climbers together. Just as a ridge joins mountaintops, like her, they wanted opportunities above the clouds. Eager and unstoppable, they planned, trained, and dreamed beyond the horizon. They plotted an expedition to the world's highest mountain, Everest, a challenge so great only a few people had ever succeeded, and no women had. Ganbaramyasu, the women believed they could do it, step by step. Sorry for the mispronunciation. You can send me a recording and fix my pronunciation. When sponsors told Junko, "Stay home and raise your child," she became a mother who climbed for her daughter. Up, up, and ever up. Junko and the team recycled what they had into what they needed. When mountaineering gloves didn't fit because they were only made for men, Junko sewed her own and fashioned pants from her Okasan's kimono lining. After years of preparation, Junko and her fellow climbers landed in Nepal. Their excitement met with a tumble of open markets and air thick as a mug of butter tea. A group of Sherpas from the bustling city of Kathmandu and the high hills of Namche Bazaar joined the trailblazing expedition. Day by day, word spread of the first all-women team, until Nepali people Some mothers, like Junko, came from villages as far away as a 3-day walk to carry the team's 15 tons of gear. Soon, the rhythm of over 500 porters, aunties, uncles, younger brothers, and big sisters swayed over bridges and rumbled past painted chortens. Among the jangle of yak bells, look, here's the yak, see this funny animal? And the grunt of voices, Junko trekked through dusty villages and blue pine forests. The wind whispered prayers for a safe climb as Everest's summit rose before her. Up, up, and ever up. The team spent weeks establishing camps beyond the maze of moving ice and deep crevices of the Khumbu icefall until Everest awoke and a dragon's roar shook the night. Avalanche! Blocks of ice and rock slammed into Junko and her 4 teammates, tossing them down, down, down. Pinned within her tent, fighting for air, Junko saw a vision of her family, of her daughter. She had to stay alive for them. She had to stay alive for herself. Sherpas escaped, and despite the danger, they clawed at the wall of ice. A hand, a head, a boot. They dug until they freed each climber. Everywhere Junko looked lay gear strewn like the stars above. Worse, she could barely stand. Junko's gaze followed the team's Koinobori flag, the wind dragging it down the mountain, the carp refusing to give up. With enough oxygen for 2 people, only the group's climbing leader, Junko, and her guide, Ang Searing Sherpa, would attempt Everest summit. Could Junko accomplish what no woman had before? Almost 2 weeks later, they reached their last camp. Waves of wind rattled their tent like a tiny vessel on a wide ocean. Before dawn, Junko began her ascent. On a ridge as narrow as a stone tightrope, she wouldn't stop. Inch by inch, hand over hand, step by step she climbed, up, up, and ever up. Junko stood on Everest summit where earth met sky. Silvery domes and icy peaks unfurled as far as she could see. On a snowy patch, no larger than a tatami mat, she gazed upon a landscape untouched by people, just 2 small climbers in a cloud of white. Like a mighty glacier, Junko continued carving paths for China, 1 peak at a time, from China to Argentina. But she never stopped thinking about the beauty of the Himalayas. I think all of these little dots are places that she went, and I think the red ones are places, mountains she actually climbed. As the years rose, crumpled and folded into the next, thousands followed in her footsteps. In Nepal, trash climbed as high as the swirling clouds that wreathed Everest. Discarded tents fluttered like feathery birch bark under the shimmering sun, and oxygen canisters blazed on the ice as if autumn had tinted the Himalayas. That's just terrible that the mountain climbers leave their trash. A promise rose within Junko. Yaritai, she would help. Sherpas and Surdas, porters and people. The Everest she loved. Beneath pine tapestries, she collected litter from the Manistone Trail left by climbers, porters, and caravans of yaks. In tiny villages Hemmed by terraced fields and forests, Junko planted apple seedlings that reminded her of home. Maybe the lives of the people would improve as the lush orchards grew. Then she urged the protection of mountain ecosystems. At environmental conferences, her words illuminated cool grass and hot springs, slopes, and summits. Those are gatherings where people get together and talk about how they can protect the beautiful nature that we all depend on. Because she was always that young girl on her first mountain, reaching the top, step by step, up and ever up. And then there's lots of pages about the author's note. About her, she said, I needed to climb and be among the peaks. The rocky landscape had become a part of me. Concerned about the impact of climbing on the environment, Junko campaigned for sustainable mountaineering, and in her late 50s, she returned to college. And there she researched the effect of garbage and human waste on Mount Everest. And so she began weighing climbing waste, investigating the problems, and inspired by the humanitarian work of Sir Edmund Hillary, she made the Take In, Take Out campaign. And they helped organize people to make sure that the garbage was not left behind. So there you go. She was born in 1939, and she lived all the way up into when she died in 2016. And her work continues through the Junko Tabei Foundation. And there's even an award for her. So there you go. There's a whole bibliography, and there's a glossary, and then there we have it, the end. I love you both very much. I hope you enjoyed this book. Maybe you can find the Japanese version.